Next up, we have running backs. We're on our last couple. Running backs is a really fun position because there's a lot of talent there.
Yeah. Again, I mean, there's talent all over the board, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you are podcasters and you pay close attention to this team and all the talent that's there. It just needs to come to fruition, right? I have been big on Sean McGrew for seems like the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
I've liked him a lot, and Trevor backed me up on that. I wanted to see more of him. The way that he runs, falling forward, I love that. I don't think you see him start the game. I think you see Richard Newton start the game. But it's going to be a steady rotation of those two guys and Cam Davis.
Yep.
It's going to be those three guys, and you're going to see a lot of all three. It's just a steady rotation of all three. They're all talented in their own way. Richard Newton is a bus.
Yeah.
And he's going to run through you. It's how healthy is he? That's my major concern.
Yeah, and with all three of those guys, they've all had some issues with injury. But, I mean, you're a running back. Your job is to get tackled. And it unfortunately, I mean, we were at the game where Richard Newton got hurt. His ankle, I mean, it went to the ground. It was not pretty.
We could hear it.
Yeah, that was not a good. Yeah, it was. I mean, we were right. Like it was on the yard line that we were on, like the 25 or 30 or something.
Yeah.
So, that was tough, and we knew that he wasn't coming back. And Sean McGrew also had some issues with durability, and Cam Davis was limped off after getting hit in the Oregon game, and then you didn't see him again until the bowl game.
Yeah.
So, but if you look at those guys, I mean, the NFL is – I would have told you when Sean McGrew came in at 5'7" and not big, he was going to be a gadget running back. But there's a job for him now.
Mm-hmm.
Really good out of the backfield. He's gotten stronger and stronger. You're going to see it starting – the starting role doesn't matter for them.
Right.
It's just going to be a whatever situation works best.
Yeah.
And my hope is they don't just pigeonhole Richard Newton as just a
goal line
short yardage back, because he is a complete back.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And what I like about Sean McGrew is that he is very capable of catching out of the backfield as well. Yeah. And I like that out of my running backs.
Oh, yeah. Wheel routes are going to be no problem for him. Making a guy miss or, getting those extra yards. I think he's a senior too. He knows how to play football, man. That matters.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
I think that's it for running backs. I mean, you'll probably see a Kamari Pleasant, who's a fifth-year senior who, he's played sparingly throughout his career.
Yeah.
Seeing some of the freshmen, maybe. I think that there's other guys that fill those roles that have more experience. But I mean, Sam Adams, we really, really like. Jadeveon Sunday, really like as well.
Yeah. He kind of reminds me of Richard Newton a little bit, the way that he runs downhill.
I agree. He's a very physical running back.
Yeah.
But, Newton's got another year. Davis has got a couple more years after this. I mean, Richard Newton, he has a couple more years if he doesn't go early. My advice to running backs, though, is as soon as you can go, you need to go.
Yeah, always.
So, running backs, super easy, super exciting, though. You're going to see with the offensive line, they're going to be able to control the line of scrimmage. I think that it's going to help them ease in a new quarterback.
For sure.
And then finally, we have inside linebackers and outside linebackers. Jake, inside linebackers were a huge issue last year. They're the reason why Washington wasn't where we thought they should be. They figured some things out. What do you think?
This, to me, is the hardest competition battle that I see on this roster. So this is by far the hardest group for me to determine where, who is starting, who's getting reps. I think you have to throw Ulufushio in there as a starter somewhere. Personally, I don't really want to, but he played so well last year, you kind of have to.
Right.
I like the hammer. I like Calvert a lot. I've been big on them ever since they came to campus.
Yeah.
It's so hard to MJ Tafisi. Jackson Sermon played really well last year. If I have to say who my two starters are, it's probably going to be Sermon and Ulufuscio, and you're going to see a rotation of Tafisi. Man, you can't rotate your inside linebackers though.
Yeah.
If you have two starters, those are going to be the guys that are going to see the field the entire game.
Right.
So I think it's going to be Ulufuscio and Sermon, but really what I want to see is a combination of Ulufuscio and either Hammer or Calvert.
Yeah, and I think that Edifon Ulufuscio will be the starting middle linebacker. He'll be the tackle getter. He'll be the guy that does all the things that we came to expect out of BBK and Exim Victor and guys that are the tackle makers.
Yeah.
His ceiling, who knows what his ceiling is? His floor is really high.
Yeah.
But Josh Calvert, when he was healthy last year before he got hurt, he was turning heads. Yeah. And he's fully recovered from an ACL, so he has to be in the mix. The one that I think will end up being the starter next to Edifon Ulufuscio to start the year will be MJ Tafisi.
Yeah.
I agree with you that they don't. That's not a position where there's a lot of rotation. But I think that they're going to be creative in the ways that Jackson Sermon is a good guy to have in small areas.
Yeah.
And then Daniel Haimuli and Josh Calvert, they're so talented that it's going to be hard to keep them off the field.
Yeah.
So I can see a transition from Ulufuscio to a Calvert. It doesn't happen this year. I don't know. But I think that you have to give the nod to Edifon because he made plays.
Yeah, the problem is when I picture Calvert, I picture Calvert in the role of the Ulufuscio.
Oh, me too.
He's the tackle getter. He's the captain of that defense. Calvert played quarterback in high school. He knows offenses. He knows defenses. That's the role that I see him. And I see Tafisi, Sermon, and Hammer as that Keyshawn Bierria, the cleanup guy, the big hitter guy. And those three are all really talented. It's just going to determine, I think Tafisi has the most obviously he has the most playing time out of all of them. So I think that's probably the reason why you're going to see him start.
Yeah, I think you're right. I really like his film. All three of those guys that we just mentioned, their film is really good. They're all really high level players.
Yeah.
Edifon Ulufuscio, the way that he was first noticed was being, his first two tackles were for fumbles, and that was on special teams. Yeah. So those guys are gonna,
they'll get their chance.
Doesn't matter how good you are in high school. You have to earn it on special teams, and
we'll
see where you go from there.
That's kind of what helped Kyler Gordon out last year was special teams. He was kind of broken early, and they threw him in special teams, and he was making plays left and right, and it brought his confidence back.
Yeah, I agree.
Those guys need that.
And then we got the outside linebackers. Those are your pass rushers, kind of like defensive ends, buck, as sometimes they've been called.
Yeah.
Obviously, losing Joe Tryon, a possible first-round pick. If he dropped out of the top 3 rounds, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
That sucks, but there is some talent there, and there's some guys that have played. What do you see out of that position group?
Linebackers in general kind of stump me. Obviously, your one big returner is Ryan Bowman. Yep. He's the guy that's made, he's played the most. He's going to get the start on one end. I don't think he's going to be your weak side starter. I think your strong side starter is probably going to be Bowman. I think Latu is primed to start on the other side. I really do. You got Fatui in there, and then you got the incoming freshman and Smalls. I just don't think Smalls has enough time in the system to be an every down player. I think he's probably going to be in long pass attempts, third and longs. You try to get him in there for some pass breakups and stuff like that. Get to the quarterback type of guy until he has time to mature. But I think you're probably going to see Latu and Bowman as your starters. This isn't a real deep room.
No, and this is another room where you can see a little more rotation than some of the other positions on the defense. Because again, the closer you get to the line of scrimmage, the more of a rotation you'll see. I mean, Sidney Jones and Kevin King, they almost played when they were here in 2016. They played something like 99% of the snaps, and the snaps they didn't play were in blowouts.
Right.
So, when you get closer to the line of scrimmage, you get a little more rotation. I agree with you on Ryan Bowman. We've, us and pretty much everybody else in the media has always kind of expected him to be overtaken by maybe some guys that have more God-given talent gifts.
Upside, yeah.
But he just keeps producing, and he's a guy that you're going to lean on this year. It sounds like Zion Fatui, he's going to be kind of that. He's a big dude, really, really big. And and then I think it's going to be kind of a revolving door with him and Laiatu Latu.
Yeah, I think Zion's more of your run stuffer.
I can see that as a guy who sets the edge. Laiatu Latu really good at getting to the quarterback. And then I think you're right. Savell Smalls will have packages. He's already been talked about from Pete Kwiatkowski that he's really shown a lot already. Yeah. And his body's even changed since when he was in high school. He's a lot more cut, and he's making plays. And they're going to have packages where they just say, like, go be a 5-star player.
Right.
And that seems to work a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to pass rushers, where if you're good at those techniques, and you're more athletic, you're going to be good. And it's all the other stuff about all the other stuff kind of about like dropping into coverage and some of those more fine-tuned things that come with just playing. And so, I mean, you can see his role expand.
Yeah, the little trinket plays that he's going to need to learn. Yeah, exactly. Versus just go, like you said, just go out there and rush the passer.
Exactly.
And create havoc. Mm-hmm. And those are the plays that we're going to see him.
Yeah, and the guy that I think that he's really similar to is the guy down in Oregon, is Kayvon Thibodeau, who did the same thing where he was the start of the year. They would bring him in obvious passing downs, and he would just be better than the right tackle.
Right, the guy that he's lining up against. Yeah,
exactly. And by the end of the year, I mean, he was making plays in the running game. He was making plays on screen plays. Like he learned. And I mean, they're not the same player, but I mean, they're really, really talented. They're highly touted guys. And Savell Smalls, I think, will have a very similar freshman arc. Even, I mean, maybe it's a little different. It's 12 games instead of 6 games. I mean, that's different.
Well, and the nice part is next year's his freshman year too. So
there you go.
It's not really 6 years or 6 games. It's 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's kind of our position preview. We kind of went into some two deeps. I think this really shows us that Washington is a little bit young, but they're so talented that they could see a jump right back into contributing or competing for the North, which I think they will.
Yeah, I mean, the depth is there, the talent's there. It's just, have you had enough time to gel and mold and put it all together? And we're going to find out here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and watching this month of football without having the Pac-12 and watching the defenses, I think that's what's going to separate Washington from a lot of other programs in the Pac-12 and around the country.